Bruno is also an ex-Android developer. He's been working with Flutter since 2019, so very experienced. He's currently working at Taya. Taya make payment machines, and he's a Flutter developer there. Tonight, he's going to be talking about scaling dependencies with provider. So, over to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me today. First, as George said, we are going to talk about scaling dependencies in Flutter. Actually, what we are going to do more is having a closer look at widget-based dependency injection provider, as George said. First, a little bit about me. My name is Bruno. I'm originally from Brazil. Been living here in the UK for 1 year and 4 months. Yes, 1 year and 4 months. Pretty new. As George said, I first started working as an Android engineer. Then I moved to Flutter in 2019, which was a very good choice. Really enjoy it. Let's talk a bit about the agenda. First of all, injecting dependencies. I'm going to talk about some concepts first: dependency injection, service locator, how they apply to Flutter. Secondly, let's see how state work in Flutter, how dependencies work, how we can provide these dependencies across the Flutter app. We're going to have a close look at provider, which is also Flutter favorite. I'm going to talk about my personal story with provider. I call it the carnival crash. I'm going to give you more details during the presentation, but yes. We're going to understand why did this happen in the first place, try to understand the problem, the limitations, and so on, and what mitigations and alternatives we can have to not have this problem. So first of all, injecting dependencies. So one very important concept for us to understand dependency injection is inversion of control. So here you guys have a class balanced data source, very simple class that fetches something from the API, has a DO client, HTTP client. I don't know if everyone can see it, but I'm trying to speak just to make you visualize. Here, as you can see, we can spot some problems here. First of all, let's suppose I want to attach to this class. How can I mock DO? It's being instantiated by balanced data source. Balanced data source is having the control to instantiate the DO. Also, if I want to reuse this DO, let's suppose we have, I don't know, headers. We want to add headers across the app. We cannot do it because it's being created here, so it's not exposed. There's some tightly coupling between DO and balanced data source as well. So we can see there are some points here that we can address. So yes, in the second version, what we did is inverting the control. So right now, the control of instantiating, creating the DO instance is not on the balanced data source anymore. It's outside it. So the control of creating it and passing to the balanced data source, and that we call dependency injection. So dependency injection you can see as a way of applying inversion of control. So in this case, it's the most popular way of injecting dependencies. It's the constructor dependency injection. So here, instead of instantiating the DO, you receive it, you use it to make the API call. So you can mock it, you can reuse it if you want, and so on. So that's how dependency injection and inversion of control are related. Two very popular concepts, I think, across software engineering in general. Yes, we also have another way to provide dependencies to our classes, to our app, is the service locator pattern. In this case, instead of having it injected like we had in the constructor, we have a registry that we are calling locator here. Our registry holds our dependencies. So here in our case, it holds DO. And what we do is pretty much getting this dependency from the locator. So that's how service locator works. Main difference from the other example with dependency injection, yes, we don't have it injected, not by constructor, not by method. We just have it being, let's say, get it from the locator, which is our registry, works as assessor for us to get this dependency. So yes, we are also like the coupling in this case, but in a different way. So we have a class to provide these dependencies. Okay, let's talk a bit about how it applies to Flutter. Let's talk a bit about like state, and then we can move to dependencies. Both are related. So first concept for us, I know it's a bit like long, but hopefully some can see here. We have a very simple example, which is my counter here. It's a stateful widget that holds the state of account, pretty much the basic Flutter example if you create an app. So this count here, it's called ephemeral state. Why? Why? Because it lives within the widget lifecycle. So if the my counter stateful widget dies, if it disposes, the count disposes with it. So everything is within the widget. That's what we call ephemeral state. This is a very basic example for that. Yes, if we want to share state between the different widgets, one simple way is also using the constructor. So we could, in that example, create a separate class for that, my counter, that takes the count in the constructor. So we have constructor dependency injection. And yeah, we display this count here. And yes, we could use in our stateful widget, we could just have my counter here, which takes the count, and we have the count variable in the parent widget. So what we do here, we are sharing the state of our account variable between the parent stateful widget that's here somewhere and the my counter, which is our stateless widget. Okay, let me just take a small sip. Okay, so some ways of providing dependencies in Flutter. First one is constructor injection, as we saw. Even if we use other ways, even if we use tools, or we are going to use constructor injection, that's very useful. It's widespread, and it's something that we should use actually. InheritedWidget, that's the Flutter native way to provide dependencies. I'm going to give you guys an example, but mostly it injects the dependencies through the widget tree. We have some widget-based dependency injection libraries. Most famous ones are Provider and a wrapper around Provider that is Block Provider. If you use Block, it comes Flutter Block. It comes with the Block Provider for you to inject your dependencies, your blocks. We also have like Riverpod, which is a dependency injection, and GetIt, which is actually service locator that I'm going to talk about more, each of them later in the presentation. And yeah, you name it. There are many others. Probably you guys know. Many other ways of injecting dependencies. So here's the example with InheritedWidget. Very simple one. We have just my counter again. That's how you create an InheritedWidget. You have like the notify here. So when you use that, that's how it looks like in the screen. So what I did here is I injected the my counter is wrapping my widget tree. So below in the widget tree, deep in the widget tree, I can access this counter here by just like reading this value, and yeah, I present in the screen. So that's pretty much how InheritedWidget works. Let's talk a bit about Provider. So yes, Provider is Flutter favorite. If you look at the architectural docs of Flutter, they even say that based on their own experience building the Flutter apps, the teams at Google recommend using Provider to implement dependency injection. So it's recommended, it's widely used. It's, I don't know if, I cannot say if it's the most downloaded like package, but for sure it's top 10. And yeah, it's Flutter favorite also. So yeah, probably you guys have heard of that. A very simple example with Provider, just providing a string here down the widget tree. It looks kind of like the inherited widget, and yeah, it looks like because it's actually a wrapper around the inherited widget. So here I'm providing a string, and I'm reading this string here. Pretty much very simple example on how we can provide dependencies using Provider. So yes, let's jump to a personal story. I call it the Carnival crash. I don't know if you guys know, everyone knows, but Carnival, I'm from Brazil, and Carnival is a big thing in Brazil. Fabio, I think he knows. Even if you don't celebrate, like it's a big holiday, you have like 4 or 5 days, depending on where you work, the whole week off. So everyone gets very excited about Carnival. And I have my own personal story that's related to Carnival and Provider. So what happened was in 2023, when we were doing a very silly thing, just like upgrading the Flutter version of our app. I used to work in a bank back in Brazil, and we were okay. There's a new Flutter version. Let's upgrade. Let's see. When we first run our app in iOS, yes, it didn't work well. We saw it crashing, and we didn't know well. That's what we saw. We saw a Stack Overflow, and that's how it looks like. Looks odd. Looks like if you look at it, you're probably going to panic. And yeah, we panicked a bit, like what's going on? Why just a simple Flutter upgrade is doing that? But yeah, after we panicked, we started to research, to try to understand what's going on with our app. So first thing, when you search about that a bit, you'll find in both Flutter and provider GitHub pages, you can find some issues open. These are some report, for example, multi-provider does not support above 168 providers. Stack Overflow, when you have too many widgets. You have some other reports here. Some people trying to fix or do like some workarounds or improvements to make it scale better. So yeah, let's understand why did this happen. First of all, let's try to understand the problem. So yes, as I said, provider uses InheritedWidget. So it injects the dependencies through the widget tree using InheritedWidget, wrapping InheritedWidget. So it means that every time we are using a provider to inject a new dependencies, we are adding at least one more layer into our widget tree. So what can happen is, if you have deep tree, very nested tree with many dependencies, many widgets, and so on, you're increasing your call stack, and you can see this Stack Overflow. Why? First of all, Flutter build process calls its widgets build recursively. So it calls build, and this recursion lives on the call stack. So the call stack has limited size. It changes depending on operational system, it changes depending on the device and some other stuff, but yeah, it has a limited size, and yeah, you can reach this limit. I reached, and I know you can reach. So yeah, what happened is, like, if you have a very nested widget tree, yes, you can overflow the stack. You can have a Stack Overflow, and yeah, it's not very, very nice. So just to visualize a bit more, here in this drawing that I did, we have like our qubits. If you use the model, anything used to inject your state, injected above one page or one widget. For each qubit that we add in this widget tree, we are adding a call on our call stack. So yeah, if your call stack is too big, it's very big, you can overflow it. The problem becomes even worse, let's say, if you inject other things, such as your other layers. For example, if you have a data source, I don't know, use case, repository, qubit, you name it, on the layer you have, and you don't want to reinstantiate the things, yes, your widget tree can grow even faster, and you can have this problem, faster. So this is how it looks when I inject like 5 providers inside multi-provider. If you look at the widget tree, there will be like the widgets here. Every provider, it's one layer. So the widget tree is here. This is a simple example just to show how it looks like if you open the widget inspector. So I did some benchmarks. Currently, it's much better than it was, especially in new devices. So I tried in like iPhone 15 Pro Max with iOS 17. With provider, this is important, provider version 6.12. 3K, 3.3K was the max widget tree depth that I could have without having the Stack Overflow. For iPhone 8 with iOS 16, 1K, which is lower. Yeah, older iOS, older iPhone, stack size is different. So yeah, this is lower. I remember when we had this problem, we had like with I think 700 something. So yeah, depends on the device, on the operational system, and yeah, the Flutter version, it's all changes. So yeah, just did these 2 benchmarks. So yes, we have the problem. It cannot be a problem if I don't know, if you don't have that many dependencies, and we are going to see how we can mitigate, what alternatives do we have, and yes, let's take a look. First of all, one thing that's very, very exciting, very good, provider was optimized 1 month ago. So first time I did this talk in the company that I worked, it was not like this. So Remy, who is the creator of Provider, he did like a very good optimization in Provider. I tested it myself. I can share the results in a bit. If you look at the Provider pub dev, yes, it was released in 26th of March, yes. Yeah, significantly increased the number of providers that multi-provider can create at once without causing a Stack Overflow. So it's exactly related to the problem we are talking about. And yeah, it's 1 month ago, so very good timing. If you look at now the same example, exactly the same example with multi-provider with 5 providers above it, we have just one extra layer in our widget tree. So multi-provider is here, and we don't have each provider as a new widget and increasing our widget tree depth. So yeah, much better, especially if you use multi-provider. So how can we mitigate? First of all, if you're using Provider, if you work with that and you have Provider in your app, please upgrade to it can be the latest, but this one is the one before latest, version 6.1.3, released on 26th of March, and use multi-provider when possible, because it's only going to be optimized if you use multi-provider. If you use provider, yeah, your widget tree will be huge. So right now, with the new update, each multi-provider, even with multiple dependencies, it will add just one widget above your widget tree, which is very good, which is very much unlikely you can see this problem. So yes, I think the problem is, let's say, almost solved. Block provider also uses provider. It wraps provider, but it's still using. I checked at least 3 days ago, and it was still using provider 600. So yeah, it will take some time to catch up with the newest updates, but it will come. So if you also use block provider, yeah, wait for it and update when they have. So another thing which is very important is scoping your dependencies whenever possible. So that's a good practice, not only because of this problem, but it's a good practice in general. If you have state that can be scoped, can live within part of your widget tree, can live within part of your app, please do. In our app, for example, when we had this problem, most of our dependencies were global, which is not very good, but yeah, it was like this. And that's one of the reasons why we saw this problem. Our app has grown a lot. We had like multiple dependencies. So yes, scope your dependencies whenever possible. That's an important thing. Other alternatives we have, if you want to consider using other libraries that inject dependencies without increasing the widget tree, so without adding more and more layers to the widget tree, you have like many, but I will name 2 here. Riverpod, which is also from Remy, which he's the creator of Provider. It's a dependency injection library, and we migrated to Riverpod when we had this problem. It was the easiest one to migrate from Provider. We were a bit like panicked, and we had many things to deliver, so that was our choice at that point. And yeah, we have GetIt, which is very popular also, in the service locator library that you can also use. I'll give like 2 quick examples of each one. For Riverpod, it's how it looks like. Riverpod works by adding just one more layer into our widget tree, global layer called provider scope, and then above the provider scope, you can create the variables. For example, you have counter provider, you can have whatever provider you can have, and yeah, it will just add one layer. You can scope, you can do whatever you want, and it will not increase your widget tree, not because of injecting dependencies at least. Okay, I think it's the same. Yeah, sorry. I was trying to, there should be an example of GetIt here, but as I was trying to get it bigger before the presentation, probably I dropped it. But yes, for GetIt, we would have something very similar, but you would have a GetIt instance registry, and you can get the dependencies without having to inject into the widget tree. So you have like a big, let's say, object that you get the instance. You register your instance and to get it from there. So some key takeaways here. First thing, dependency injection is essential. Yes, you're going to use dependency injection for sure. It's impossible not. Impossible. It's hard to say, but at least like I don't know, constructor dependency injection. Your dependency injection strategy matters. So how you inject dependencies matters a lot. Dependency injection promotes like the coupling between your classes. So for example, in the example that we had, we could create DO externally. So we are decoupling DO from the our class, our data source in that case. We promote separation of concerns. So the instantiation can be a concern of another class and not the class that's doing like the client request, for example. It also promotes testability. So even with service locator or dependency injection, as far as you can provide dependencies, yes, you are able to test, you're able to mock, and yeah, that's good. You can test your app. Another key takeaway, I would say it's please understand how a huge widget tree might affect your app scalability. So what I mean by that is, yes, look at your widget tree, look how big it is, and yes, for most of apps it's fine. Depends on how big your app is, how many widgets you have, how many dependencies you have. But yeah, be aware of that. Widget-based dependency injection is fine. It's good actually. It's even recommended, as you guys saw. But yeah, just be aware of how it works, its limits, and yeah, you can work with that and be safe if you consider that the trade-offs. So another thing which is also here is, yeah, scope your dependencies whenever possible. So much less likely you'll see this problem. One thing that I added here, I think a hybrid approach might be beneficial. For example, let's suppose you have your app with qubit block or whatever, and you need to use block provider to inject it. It's fine. You're just injecting one layer into your widget tree. But yeah, maybe you should consider using other way of for the other layers, such as your use case, don't know, repository, whatever you name it. You can consider using like a GetIt or any other thing. So you can have a hybrid approach where you inject dependencies with through the widget tree, and yeah, some you inject using other packages or strategies. Another key takeaway, yes, upgrade your provider version. If you go tomorrow to work, you'll see, yeah, do it. Will be much better. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Thank you very much. Yeah, any questions?
Bruno?
Bruno, I would love to know how your team planned the development for the app.
Okay.
That got you guys into the issue with
You mean before the issue, right? Or after the issue? Before.
was Get It available then?
Okay. Good question.
Your solution from the architecture point of view for handling the
Good question. In our app, in our case, we had it was broke into modules. So we had each modules, and each modules used to declare the providers. So yes, we have considered other options. When actually, I was not like the one like architecting first the app, so I joined the company. They were using provider. We kept it, and when we did like this module break approach, we had a lot of declarative global dependencies that each module declared. So that was like the main problem, let's say, in architectural way for us, because we didn't know that our app would grow like so fast, so quickly, and yeah, we had like so many dependencies. So for like each module, we had, I don't know, there were some modules that we had, I don't know, 50, 40, 60 dependencies for one module. So global, which is not good, but that's how it ended up like this. We had a decision that was taken before that was we want to access every dependency in a way that it's easy to access, even if I'm in a different module or something. So that was like the rationale of like, okay, we want to have it declarative, we want to have it global, so we can access it. But yeah, we end up with that, and we had to change in the why we are developing other stuff.
Right, thank you. I just wanted to get to the core of what caused the entire problem. Thanks for it.
Yeah, I think that being like 100, looking back right now, I think the main problem was that, yes, our app had too many global dependencies, but yes, I think anyways, it's important to be aware of of this and how it works. yeah, I'm not the only. Yeah, as you guys said, there was like some other people having the same problem. So yeah. Yes.
Just a couple of clarifications, actually. So, on that last point, when you say lots of dependencies, you mean they were too granular?
They were too granular, but they were all. Most of them were global, so they were declared on top of the app tree. So that's the main problem, I think. Yeah,
Okay.
for clarification.
The second question was, when you talk about numbers of widgets, you're talking about the
Depth of the widget tree.
of a particular branch of the widget.
Yeah, I'm talking about the depth of a particular branch. Yeah, when I did like the test, I just created like a for loop with like many providers. Yeah, and the same like a branch of the widget tree. Yeah, exactly. I just for simplify. Yeah, but that's exactly it. You have a lot of branches in your widget tree, and yeah, it's the
But I mean, 7
highest.
deep is
Yeah, pretty deep. Yeah, yeah, it is.
Performance thing.
Huh?
In performance, you can maybe find these issues earlier.
If okay, you mean with the yeah, if we were like profiling and stuff, yeah. But at the time, honestly, we were like developing a lot, and like we were not even thinking about like changing provider at that time. It was working, so we were like, yeah. But if I look back right now, what I would do, I would not abandon provider 100%. In this case, what I would do, it's in this case we did. We had like we had different layers, for example, repository, and we injected like to reuse like the things. What I would do would be only injecting the other layers that are not like the state layers, besides like your qubit or view model. So yes, it's much unlikely you're going to have this problem if you don't inject every class of your app through providers. So, but if you do, yes, be aware. Yes.
Any more?
Yeah, so with what you were just saying, are you saying that you were putting stuff in the widget tree that didn't actually get used by any widgets? So it's all just back-end logic for your app?
No, it got used, yes, but what I mean is like, yeah, there was like a branch of the widget tree that they had like, I don't know, let's say 200 providers, or I don't know, 100 providers above it, and they used, I don't know, 5, let's suppose. So it was not like scoped in a way that, yeah, that was like the problem in this
Did
case.
you structure your app where a lot of the dependencies are talking to each other outside of the widget tree?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
There's one layer that's binding.
Yeah, that's exactly what like Riverpod works like this. They have like one layer binding everything in terms of like in their cases are like instances. You instantiate like providers, and yeah, you have just one layer on top, and they scope inside the. Let's say they have the logic to scope and everything inside it. They don't do like provider or inherited widget that yeah, every time you add, you are adding like a new widget to your widget tree.
Is your mobile app slow? Have you?
I'm not working in this app anymore, but honestly, it used to be. It used to be good, to be honest. Like being 100% honest. Like, I think there was some decisions that were taken that were like a bit like, I don't know the word to use, but questionable. But in general, the app was still good. Like, so yes, if you look at my LinkedIn, you can see the company. But it's was nice experience. Was nice to not nice to have that, but was nice to learn from that. Yeah. Yeah, my carnival. That's a good question. Very good question. My carnival was actually in this carnival I had to work a bit, which was like sad. So we were like planning some deliveries that had to be like stopped because of this, and it was like big mess, let's say.
In terms of maintainability of the app, what would you consider to be the healthy amount of dependency willing to add in your program?
That's a very silly question. It's very hard to say. Very hard. Like I did this benchmark, for example, in 1K was okay for like iPhone 8, for example. So I don't know, maybe if you have, but it's not only dependencies. If you add a normal widget, it's also adding depth to your widget tree. So yeah, it's widget plus the dependencies that are being injected through the widget tree. But I don't know. It's a hard question to answer. I don't know. I don't have a number for you. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Bruno.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.